Mr. Worldwide.
Welcome to Quarantine Life, episode 2 of Global Brothers Podcast. As per regular, it's your man, the Dandy, here with you, and Big Heath in the building. What's cracking, Heath?
What's up, brother? How are you, man? Can I get a nice handshake?
For sure, virtually,
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's keep it 100.
Elbow.
Well, social distancing. Well, hey,
Yeah, man. We hear. We got a very, very special guest today, and all the way from looks like outer space, but he just told us that's where we live, so that's where we at. But we have Councilman of the 7th Ward, Cleveland, Ohio, with us. Welcome to Global Brothers Podcast.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here with the brothers, man. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank you guys so much for the invitation. And yeah, man, brothers like us, man, we stay in outer space, man, so that we can overstand the situation, man, for sure.
No question.
I really like that. Overstanding.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like outer space where you are, but let's call it Ward 7 Wakanda. Okay.
For sure.
We'll call it Ward 7 Wakanda, which is on another level right now under your leadership. Before we get to that, I want to go way back, okay, to maybe 2010, 2011. I was in a barbershop with a brother named Emil Cook, who we were rapping so many times, and he's, of course, a Morehouse brother like yourself. He said, hey, man, you go to Cleveland a lot. You need to connect with my boy Basheer. And I said, a word? So after he said it maybe over a year's time, he said it quite a few times, he gave me your number.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gave me your number, I texted you a couple times when I was in Cleveland, but I was always on the move, and of course, it was late notice or last minute, so we had never connected. That was probably between 2011 to 2013. So one day I'm over here in the UAE, and a friend of mine says, "Yeah, I'm going out here to hear Basheer Jones speak," and I'm like, "Who? Say that again?" He said, Basheer Jones, from the States. I said, where's he from? He said, Cleveland. And I had never met you. My eyes lit up. I said, where is that brother right now? And we called you. I remade my acquaintance with you. You knew who I was. And we were in your hotel room chopping it up probably in the next 20 minutes later.
Straight up.
And that was a special time for me. And I told that story many times to people, how the world is, man. You just never know how people are going to connect.
That's real, man.
Man. Since then, I have become a Basheer Jones fan. Actually, I was before then. I was following your work before. And subsequently, you became city councilman of Cleveland in the Ward 7. And it's been nothing but fun watching you ever since then. We're gonna probably have to go back a little further, maybe back to after Morehouse. What happened? What led you to taking these type of leadership positions?
Before you jump in and get rolling with this, I just wanted to properly warm it up. That was a wonderful story of how met Heath, and we definitely appreciate that. Just like I'm sure someone that needs an introduction like this, we should say you're an educator, you're a motivational speaker, you're a councilman, you're a music and hip hop enthusiast, if not a practitioner, dare I say. And so more. So for all those reasons and more, we're happy to have you. So yeah, as Heath was leading into, you did go to an HBCU. Which is very inspirational, for me, for our viewers as well, to kind of see the product, you know, that a Morehouse man has to offer. So yeah, kind of do tell us about that origin story, yeah, how you came up. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think of where Brooklyn at is in order.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's in order. Where Brooklyn at? So please take it.
For sure. You know, that's where I was about to go, and you know that you know what you just said that touched me, because I guess I am a practitioner of hip hop, man, and not just in the ability to be able to rap, but just in the culture itself, and bringing that culture to politics, and that culture of, you know, speaking truth to power, you know. And so originally from Brooklyn, New York, and when my family, we moved to Cleveland, you know, we were homeless, man. You know, we lived in the shelters of Cleveland, Salvation Army, different Catholic charities, and that was our lived experience. But while living in this experience, my mother, even while we were homeless, her name was Imani, even while we were homeless, she would take us to go feed other homeless people. At a very young age, she was teaching us that no matter how bad you got it, somebody got it worse than you. So with that, it was always an energy of giving back and gratefulness. And you ain't successful until you give back. Right. So that was my spirit, and it still is my spirit and my energy. And you know, skipping you know, that lived experience, and then went to Morehouse. Didn't get accepted to Morehouse at first, you know, didn't get accepted, man. Got denied, got rejected. But a man by the name of Dr. Reverend Otis Moss out of Cleveland, who was the chairman of the board of trustees, wrote me a letter. And a week later, after I got rejected, I got accepted. And then 4 years later, graduated with honors, man. So went back to Cleveland and got into radio and television, and was, you know, did some corresponding for CNN and C-SPAN and MSNBC, and just became this radio show host, the youngest radio show host in radio for Radio 1 in the country. And then I started getting into politics, you know, Obama you know, so from there people started knowing me in Obama campaign. And I think when I came out to Dubai, which was about 10-something years ago, you know, I was making a transition from radio, you know, to politics in a sense. I had ran for office initially, but I lost by 600 votes. And then I ran again and I won by 13 votes, man. Talking stress, baby. So, and then, but just like everything else in my life, I was told no. Just like everything in my life, you know. And I just never accepted that as my reality, especially if I wanted it. So I just kept going. And the Creator opened it up for me, man. And now, Councilman of Ward 7 in Cleveland, and God willing, man, the next mayor of the city.
I can see that.
Heavy. I love that.
I can see that, brother. And
inshallah.
Your work speaks for itself as far as your mind, your leadership, but most importantly, the results. Mm-hmm. The results, and you have a lot of humility, which in when you highlight some of the results, because you still have to let the masses of the people know that you're working for them. So when you let them know, they're very appreciative.
Sure.
Later on, I want to get into that because we put it in the universe already. You possibly becoming the mayor of the city of Cleveland one day, but later on, I asked you how much that would entail. So we'll put a pin in that. How are you? First of all, Ramadan Kareem to you, Ramadan Mubarak. You know, you have a lot of work to do with this COVID-19 in Cleveland. Tell us about some of the things that are going on, especially the disparities that's happening in the Black community.
You know, I want to touch on, you know, what you said in regards to, man, us linking up in Dubai, that was a powerful thing for me because I just didn't realize how many African Americans, the African American community, like straight from Brooklyn, straight from Atlanta, straight from, you know what I mean, Chicago, Cleveland, who have made it home in Dubai. And that was amazing for me. That really opened and expanded my mind in our ability to be able to, no matter what, in the middle of the desert, man, we able to make a way out of no way. And you know, and as I tell my people here in Cleveland and the States, listen, man, we made it through the transatlantic slave trade. We can make it through this, but you know, we gotta be smart. You know, initially people thought that this wasn't a black person's virus. Black people couldn't get it,
Right.
but now we see that black people are suffering from it more than anyone else, and that's because when America has a sneeze, black people have pneumonia. That's our situation in this country, man. And you know, the poverty that exists. You know, we have a big march that we're planning, protest that we're planning this Saturday. One of the jails in Ohio had the highest cases of coronavirus in the top 3 in the country, you know, and of course, majority of them in there are over 80%, over 90% are African American. So, you know, we're suffering from terrible leadership in the presidential position, but that's a representation of the people. You know, it says that when God isn't happy with you, he'll give you a terrible leader. So Trump is a representation of the people. So even in him leaving, that segment of the population still is there. And it's not just a segment of white people, but it's a segment of people who can care less about other people, and that's black people as well. So, you know, right now a lot of social distancing is taking place, but you know, man, people having parties still, man. They still have to do. They still doing this. They still doing that. And unfortunately, most people aren't impacted until it touched them.
Yeah.
And you know, one of my closest friends, man, his father is in the hospital right now. My uncle, man, was in ICU. Alhamdulillah, he's come out of it, man. He's but many people, man, who I've known who have died from it, and it's a serious thing, man. So, you know, right now this is the time. It's like, you know, the house has burnt down in a sense here in Cleveland. With that being said, what we have to do is we have to rebuild this house. The economy totally shut down off of a cough.
Yeah.
A cough has shut the world down. The most powerful country in the world has been shut down because of a cough. So as I tell people, when we get out of this isolation, there has to be elevation. So, you know, when a caterpillar is isolated, it comes out the butterfly. Right. And this is what we have to look at ourselves, man. And when you study the spiritual text, right now I'm getting my master's in religion. Take 3 more classes away, man, and I'll have my master's in religion. And just studying the different texts of faith, and you find that God spoke to people the most when they were in isolation, you know. So this is when we have to connect, man. We got to connect with ourselves, connect with the spirit, and be guided, man, for sure.
Wow. I really love that message. Again, you build on what he said earlier about the humility. Just like, you know, as you speak, it really does speak volumes. Even not coming from that meek mindset, because it's very powerful. And now obviously that you've addressed the faith, you know, the faith matter of what makes you up, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Is it general theology that you're going to be studying, or specifically one religion over the other? Specifically Islamic studies, but we study, you know, the Bible from the Christian perspective, the Torah from the Jewish perspective. We really have to look at it from their perspective, not our own ingrained prejudices or even preconceived notions of what each other might be like. You know, we have to see it from their own perspective of saying, well, look, when in Rome, so to speak, you know, so if we're in Dubai, when in Dubai, what do people there do? If I'm in Cleveland, how do people in Cleveland operate? So if I'm looking at that religion, we can't look at it from our own experience. We have to look at from their experience of what that religion denotes, and then try to understand that more so by asking questions, but mostly by listening, because we got 2 ears, right?
Man, you hit it on the head, baby. You hit it right on the head, man. You know, I was in Hawaii. You go out to Hawaii, you know, usually people just want to do the tourism, man, but I wanted to study, man, the Hawaiians, man. Shoot, matter of fact, is this called Hawaii? You know, are you Hawaiian? Right. You know what I mean? Right. I want to hear what you called yourself. You know, we have an issue with always naming something. But this probably sounds crazy, but I sometimes I look at animals. Well, you know I'm saying animals, right? But sometimes I may look at a dog. I'm like, I wonder what you call yourself. I'm over here calling you Fido. You know what I mean? But I wonder what's your own name. You know what I mean? I be bugging sometimes, man. But you know, that's a colonizer's, you know, a way of making things comfortable. You know what I mean? And the European, what the European did, and this is no disrespect to you know, any way of life or any culture, but you know, the Muslims were in control. When the Europeans came into, the Europeans took the control from the Moors, man, the North African, the Moors out of Spain. The Muslims were leading the world at that time, man. It said that if Europe would have become, if the Moors would have taken over all of Europe, Europe will be 500 years ahead of where it is today. So when the Europeans came and they took over that power, they began to take over the world. And their whole goal in taking over the world was not just militarily, with their military, but more importantly with their with them crafting the story. With them crafting the story, they begin to determine what was beauty. They begin to determine what had value. They begin to determine what was important. You know, so mass education began to rise with the European. You know, museums begin to increase with the European. You know, they were evil geniuses, brother. What they did, they tricked the world in believing that they were God. And when they did that, everything that was closest to them was closest to God. You know, they used religion. The African didn't do that, man. The Africans didn't do that, man. The Muslims didn't do that. You know, the Chinese didn't do it. You know, but the European did it. The European was cold. So understand, the European only has been in control, man, for less than 800 years. I mean, the Greeks and the Romans had it, you know, had it at a time. But overall, the Muslims, Baghdad, Mali, Timbuktu, Persia, Iran, the Ottoman Empire, you know what I'm saying? Egypt, you know what I mean? The Mongols, you know what I mean? Like, they had it. So the European is new to power, man. But, man, it's devastating what they've done, for sure.
You know what they say. Like that one line that sticks out to me in Matrix. When I first saw that movie, it blew my mind. And I like the one that I keep on like replaying back was when the guy said, "Ignorance is bliss." He didn't want to know. He didn't want to know like what that blue pill would do. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Bliss, I'm good. I don't need to know." You know, whatever. Like that turned out to be like the turncoat, like the whole story. Mm-hmm. I say that to say that. The more you know, the more that you can grow with that. So like when you bring up that Muslim side of it, like even with slavery, like the trans-Saharan slave trade came way before the transatlantic slave trade, and that did a lot right there in terms of like all of North Africa.
For sure,
a lot of people do that, and like they don't even understand that even to this day, like there's modern day slavery. All in the Mali Empire still.
For sure.
Like,
the Trans-Saharan took place before the transatlantic. And for those who are not familiar, you know, trans just means, you know, across. It just means transportation. So across the Sahara Desert, you know, across the Atlantic. And but the European form of slavery was catastrophic in comparison.
Yeah.
Because this was the first time in human history where you could be born a slave. You know what I'm saying? Where slavery transferred from generation to generation. You know, before you could get out of slavery, you could pay yourself out. You could, you know what I'm saying? You could, you know, whatever. But slavery is slavery, man. And the Arabs did a number two, for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely not innocent. I'll say that. You know, like Heath and I are based here in Dubai, and it's just funny, like being socialized here. So you can see they've learned a lot of things from the history of it. And then growing up in the West, we can see that definitely the West has not learned a lot of lessons from that in terms of how they treat people, as opposed to giving everyone a path to realizing their own potential. You know, it's really strange. You know, just like what you said about how the different kinds of slavery were different. We see that in the current society, how it's different, because whereas there's still heavy prejudice, not just like covert, but overt prejudice, and like even systems of racism in the West, that's based on telling people they're less, as opposed to in like Eastern society, Muslim societies, you can go from a slave to a king, and it's been done before. You know, you can marry into royal, you know, within these Eastern societies. That's like quite interesting. But then again, it comes from a point of, like you said before, how long has the Europeans been in power? So do they have a little man complex? Do they have a Napoleon complex of, well, I need to make these other people feel like they're much less because we know that we don't really got it. We got to let them feel like they don't have any power.
Cold. That's powerful. Yeah. No need to follow up on that. You hit it on the head.
Brother Basheer, what did you see along these lines in India? You recently went to India probably about a year or two ago, and it seemed like you had an eye-opening experience. As a matter of fact, you built some relationships because you brought some people back to Cleveland, right? And you had an event. Can you speak to that, your experience, and some of the things you learned?
Yeah, I went over to India, and I never wanted to go to India. I never was a desire of mine, even though Indian food is my favorite and Jamaican food, that's like my favorite food. But I don't know, it was something about the energy there, man. I just it never called me to go, even though I went despite my energy, and I got really sick when I was there. I got really sick, man, to the point where I was laid out for days, man. Because you know, India is the biggest democracy, and it's the most populated place after China, and in a little bit it's going to be more populated than China. You know what I'm saying? Because China has stopped their, you know, they have laws on how many children you can have, but India, they man, you got cities, man, that got 8 million people, and it's so small, 8 million people, man. It's villages. So, you know, I can see that being a hotbed for viruses, man, and hotbed for, you know, plus the heat is crazy, man. But I had a chance to go there, and I one of the things that really stuck with me, this right here is what stuck with me. So I visited a slum village, and it was actually a Muslim slum village. So, I mean, this was the most, I mean, I never seen nothing like this, even though I'm sure there's places in America like it, but I mean, this was like, and their culture as well, you know, they have, you know, you can't touch no cows there. So cows is just walking past, you walk through the streets, man, you smell like a zoo, you know? And it's really muggy, and it's really, you know, it's like, it's really intense. So I'm talking to the kids in the slum village, and I'm talking through the interpreter. I say, listen, y'all can ask me whatever question you want about America. Whatever you want to know, I'm going to give it to you right now. I don't care what you ask me. You can ask me about whoever, whatever. I'm going to give you my perspective. So she's interpreting it. And then the kids, they bust out laughing. She's like, I said, why they laughing? She said, they never heard of America. They don't even know what you're talking about. They don't know what America is, never heard of America. They never heard of it. And you know, as you travel the world, man, you gotta be careful with that blue passport, man. It can cause arrogance, you know?
Yeah.
They never heard of America? What you mean never heard of America, you know? And I said, you know what? It's a blessing. It's a blessing they never heard of America, man. It's a blessing, man. Yeah. They never heard of our struggles, never heard of our ills. That's a blessing. So as I was going through that society, man, they're very, it makes you appreciate, as you travel, it makes you appreciate actually where you come from. But when I got back, a lot of the politicians and even future politicians of India, they came to Cleveland to visit me. And when they came through DC, and they had a choice where to go, they came to Cleveland. And within Cleveland, they had a choice where to go, and they came to my neighborhood. And it was beautiful. And some of them actually did internships with me. And I was just talking to them about the power of community. So whether we like down at City Hall, or we planting a tree, or we dealing with the people, feeding the people, you know, maybe I was their only experience with an African American, you know, and that stuff sticks with me, man. And it was a beautiful experience. I learned a lot. I don't want to go back, but I did learn a lot. I'm appreciative. And
why not? Why don't you want to go back?
Why not?
And number one, India is suffering for what America is suffering right now. Right now, they have a prime minister by the name of Modi. And he's like a Trump. He's just like Trump, man. You know what I mean? He's just like Trump. Right now, the Muslims is being slaughtered in India. You know what I mean? By this Hindu president. Is basically Hindu nationalist, Indian nationalism. That's what he is. So right now, the Muslims in Kashmir, the Muslims in India, they being slaughtered right now, man. So that's one thing that makes me uncomfortable there. Also, it made me uncomfortable with just the environment. I just didn't like the environment. The Taj Mahal was beautiful, but boy, it's so hot there, man. I bought me a cold bottle of water, brother, and in 2 minutes, man, I poured the water on me, man. That joint was hot, man. It's just hot there, stuffy there. So I ain't really like that. And the food, man, I can't eat the food, man. So, you know, when you go to different places, man, you want to be able to eat, you want to be able to enjoy. You know, Dubai, man, even though it got its issues, you know, it's clean, man. You know, it's you know, you're gonna, you know, you be able to maneuver. You got people that speak English. You know what I'm saying? You can live. You know, you can live, man. I was in El Ain. That's where I went to. I spent time in El Ain, but I went to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But man, just the cleanliness is not, you know, it's just not up to par for me, man. So, yeah.
I heard that the India is like one of the places that you can activate all of your senses all at once. You can see, smell, taste, hear, everything all at the same time. You'll smell the craziest thing. You'll see the craziest thing. You'll hear the weirdest sounds all at the same time.
Man, you hit it on the head. I never said it. I never even expressed it like that, but that makes total sense. But you know, but everything is, for some people is really nice, man. For me, it just wasn't something I like. I enjoyed. But yeah.
Do you remember what was the program you spoke at in Al Ain in the UAE?
There was a group of African American Muslims, and they do a yearly reunion.
Right.
And they asked me to come speak. Many of them, they're from Brooklyn. They grew up with my mother. I'm a third generation Muslim. My grandparents was Muslim, mother and father Muslim. So a lot of people, if they from Brooklyn, they're from New York, particularly Brooklyn, you know, they were Muslim and their parents are Muslim, then, you know, our families probably know each other. And because it was a small community growing up. My grandparents became Muslim in the 70s. And so there's a small group of black Muslims that are familiar with one another. And I'm happy to be a part of that tribe, man.
Is that Nation of Islam or
Great question. You know, they had a stint with the Nation of Islam, but there was a movement called Dar es Salaam. And Dar es Salaam was the movement that many of them who either they left the nation and created, you know, to try to come to a closer Sunni perspective, which I do my quotations because, you know, as we studying Islam, I'm doing my thesis right now, which is very controversial. My thesis is the Nation of Islam is the most impactful Muslim movement of in American history. So those who, you know, practice Islam and they're Sunnis, they will say, well, Basheer, the nation is not Muslim. You know, for those who are like, you know, the beliefs, the core beliefs are different. The foundation of it is different. And which I can understand their point clearly. but I guess I'm making a bigger point, which is there's always been Muslims throughout Islamic history that had some difference of theology.
Right.
You know, some difference. Now it may not, and some were as extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my research to show that. But what the Nation of Islam did for America and for the world, no. So if I can get you to just get past that for 1 second about them not being Muslim, if I can get you to accept that Muslims have always had some difference of theology, then what other Muslim movement have produced a Muhammad Ali? What other Muslim movement has produced a Malcolm X, a Sister Clara Muhammad? What Muslim movement has impacted its community of people who are not Muslims? Tell me what Muslim person could call 1 million people to DC and they come?
3 times.
What Muslim movement could inspire hip hop in the way that it did? What Muslim movement did that? So Nation of Islam has impacted the entire world through hip hop, through Muhammad Ali, through Malcolm X. So I think that's important to recognize.
So I was, I'd say 2014, 2015. I worked in a school in Alain, where you spoke, and I brought up the Nation of Islam to maybe 5 or 6 of my Islamic teachers. I had a staff of 14 Islamic studies teachers, and I was lounging with them in their teachers' room, and we chopping it up. And I said, "Are you guys familiar with Minister Farrakhan?" And they weren't. You know, I asked, a couple follow-up questions. They had no idea. And I said, "Are you familiar with the Nation of Islam in America?" And none of them were. And these were my Islamic studies teachers. And I was really taken back. The fact that they had never heard of, they had no type of knowledge at all. So then we got into, and I think this was on another conversation, we got into terrorism in the Middle East. And I asked about ISIS. Man, only 2 in the room knew what that was.
Wow.
So there's another word for it called Daesh, D-A-E-C-H or D-A-E-S-H. And they call the terrorism Daesh or Daesh. So when I finally conveyed to them what I meant by terrorism or Islamic terrorism, they go, "Oh, Daesh. That's not Islam. Those people crazy. Those are just crazy people." They didn't look at it as Islamic extremism, Islamic terrorism, or anything. They just looked at it as like we would look at the Crips and the Bloods. They didn't even look at it the way we look at it. They said, "Oh, those are just." It would be like a Christian church saying, "Those Crips and Bloods need to come to church and hear the word of God. They're lost." So they didn't even look at them as lost Muslims. They just looked at them as some crazy dudes. And it was very interesting to me. So I would love for you to. You still writing that thesis?
I am. I'm still working on it. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna connect you to a couple people over here. It would be great for you to get some, do some of your research and have some conversations with some of these guys to get.
I would like that
to get their perspective, And then if I can send you any articles that are you read Arabic?
I can read it. I can read it, not fluently, but I can read it.
But on Google, it'll be translated anyway. You can translate it. Right. So, yeah, I'm gonna connect you with a couple people, and then I'll find you, because that would be great to add to your thesis, man.
For sure. I mean, that's just denial, man.
I wanted to touch on. I put up a post yesterday about Martin Luther King. I found this speech, or heard about it, and I researched it a bit, and it's called the Vietnam War speech. Beyond Vietnam, and pretty much within that, it's very controversial, because obviously people people just say like, Malcolm was extreme, they kind of say like, King was like, tame or what have you. But I don't think they read the before, because this specifically pointing the finger, and this is a direct quote. Like, he says that the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is the United States. And that was based around Vietnam time. So the government and powers that be really wanted to blackball him. This is 1 year prior to his assassination. So they really wanted to blackball him and say, well, whoa, this is not the good Negro that we know, that like came to the White House and like met with the president and, marches peacefully, these kind of things. This is going to rile people up, like calling us out for who we are kind of thing. The entire speech is like a diatribe going on really going hard on that point of that the U.S. is really perpetrating a colony, an American colony in Vietnam, so to speak. So I think a lot of it does come from perspective, like you mentioned earlier, Basheer, of like, well, how are we looking at this? And if we're looking at it from the standpoint of there's much more to everyone's story, and there's many more facets to someone, like you brought up Minister Farrakhan earlier, even. Some people might look at him as just a controversial figure in one sense, but there's many facets of him in terms of being that kind of a uniting figure to do the Million Man March. Not many people would be able to do such a thing. So we really do have to look at these figures that are like, we call leaders, and say, well, how are they contributing to our overall view, and delivering something for us, like, make us more men and more women.
Human beings have many different facets, and sometimes we want to put people in the box that makes us comfortable. And Dr. King, as you study Dr. King, he was becoming closer and closer to Malcolm, and Malcolm was becoming closer and closer to him. And they were, listen, you don't reach, spiritual texts tell you that you don't become a man until 40, right? So this wasn't a this was put together perfectly, man. You know what I mean? That Malcolm or Martin or Pac, for that matter, wasn't able to reach their spiritual level of manhood. So, Malcolm was becoming more and more embracing of what Islam teaches, which is it's not about the color, but about the character, while at the same time making it clear that if the white man were to embrace Islam, then maybe it can move him away from his racist behavior. And Martin was like, listen, I'm bringing my people into a burning house, man, what he called it, in regards to fighting for integration. When he went to Chicago and spent time there, he saw racism that he never experienced, as he experienced even in the South. When he went up to Chicago and spent time there for fighting for, housing right. And white folks in Chicago, man, gave him hell. And the black people as well. So not just his work in the Vietnam piece, but look back at that letter, the letter from Birmingham jail. He made some powerful statements, man, to say, basically, my biggest enemy is not the KKK. My biggest enemy are pastors and Christian ministers, white and black, who are telling me to be patient, who are telling me not right now, who are telling me this ain't the time. Many people say march with Dr. King, man, but in reality, most churches that he went to, black and white, most cities that he went to, churches, black and white, did not allow him to preach in their churches because they was very afraid, which I understand. Most people are. But Dr. King was a special being, man, and honestly, I think he is the greatest orator, man, that America has seen, man. He was prophetic, man, in words and what he said. This guy was on a whole nother level. But when you look at Martin and Malcolm, you have to look at what I have a theory called the 4E theory to explain who they were. Number one, you have to look at environment. Dr. King was from the South. You know what I'm saying? He was from the South. If you ain't never heard of Northern hospitality, but you heard of Southern hospitality, right? So he was from the South, so he had a different demeanor. Malcolm was from Omaha, Nebraska. I've been to Omaha, man. Spoke at Creighton University, man, and it's cold there, brother. It's cold. So he was just from a cold environment. Shit, here in Cleveland, man, when it's cold, McDonald's, they just throw your food in the car. Hey, man, I ain't trying to. They don't want to say hi. They don't say nothing. Hey, man, what's good? Hey, man, we keep it moving. It's too cold. You know what I'm saying? Dave, you know what I'm talking about, man. So, so that was the environment is different. The next part is education. Dr. King was a Morehouse man. His father was a Morehouse man. His grandfather was a Morehouse man. Malcolm, his education was from the streets, from jail. You know what I'm saying? And his education also came from his father. He was pro-black. His father was a Garveyite, a Baptist minister for the Garveyites. So he had already heard this idea of going back to Africa, that the white man is doing this, and he had been hip to that prior to the nation, right? So education played a part in this. So environment, education, exposure. When Malcolm was exposed to Mecca, he had a different perspective. And not just Mecca. When he was going to sit with those African sheikhs, man, he going up to places like Morocco and Ghana and so forth and so on. He started realizing that the fight was an international fight, right? So that changed his perspective. And when Martin went to Chicago, when he started fighting in the North, Martin started his perspective began to expand. And lastly, man, environment, education, exposure, and experiences, man, experiences. Malcolm's experiences made him who he was. Martin's experiences made him who they were. So they began to, as life went on, they began to come closer in ideology. And that ideology was clearly that black people needed to be free, that racism was a real thing, but in order for us to be free, integration is not necessarily the key, but economic, political freedom is the key. Yes, that's my perspective.
Wow. 4E theory is very, very powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, man.
So if we could put I want to transition to domestic in a minute, but I would like to add and put a period on that because what you said is a lot, and man, it was great listening. And I thought about so many things. First is Dandy, when you were talking about the Vietnam speech, that's essentially what got him assassinated, Dr. King.
For sure.
What they say?
Lyndon Johnson, after that speech, brought Martin in, and they had it out. They had their discussion, and he pulled his Secret Service. Martin had government security. They pulled his government security after the Vietnam speech. So that's where the speculation is that it's time to take him out.
Wow.
The other thing, Councilman Brother Jones, man, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been taking surveys for a number of years, and they had some data that Dr. King had a 68%, a 33% or 32% approval rating amongst Black Christians. All this song and dance about Dr. King was this, Dr. King was that. As far as our generation, what we learned, them baby boomers didn't mess with him all like that
at all.
Okay, so when those babies got burned up in that church, and when those bodies was found in that garbage dump, they were blaming all of that stuff on Dr. King and his movement.
Wow.
Yes. So they called him a rabble rouser, a troublemaker, and like you said, we did. Black people did. And they also said he was basically a modern day how people depict Al Sharpton. That's what Dr. King was. I don't want to compare Sharpton to Dr. King. Not at all. Yeah. But the negative.
Dr. King never was a government informant.
A government informant, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But But this dude, what I meant by is the vitriol and the negative sentiments by black people.
Oh, right.
In the South. The same with Malcolm X. Southern blacks didn't mess with Malcolm.
Right.
At all. Like they were anti-Malcolm X. So when we grew up through hip hop and we start learning about Malcolm and we were rocking our X hats and you know, people were converted to the Nation of Islam and finding knowledge of self, that was kind of celebrated. But
definitely during Malcolm's time, he wasn't celebrating that. It was after his death that we began to love Malcolm the way that we love him, for sure. But I just want to say, you know, I mean, and I'm not talking down about Reverend Shelton or anybody who has dedicated their life. He's dedicated his life to, you know what I'm saying, to justice, and I'm sure he's, you know, whatever. But you know, that government informant piece, man, really, you know, rocked a lot of people, you know. And Dr. King was a revolutionary, man. I mean, his ability to be able to, you know, can you imagine going to spaces, man, and he say, listen, man, if you get hit, don't get hit back, man. Yeah. Yo, that's some, man, you know what I mean? Like, man, that's some courage, man. I couldn't do it.
Have you ever seen the video? It's actually not a video. It's a still photo, but it's a picture of Malcolm X in a room with COINTELPRO, and it's a recording. So it's a still picture, but the recording, and it's basically them saying, you saw that?
Oh yeah, I heard it, man. That joint is crazy. Man, Malcolm was just ahead of his time. I mean, they both were, man. They were special human beings, man.
I love how he stood tall because he was the only melanated person in the room, and they were basically willing to give him whatever he wanted to sell out everybody, and he stood tall. So,
have you got a chance to see Who Shot Malcolm X?
I'm all halfway through. I'm watching it now.
Man, I got a lot of family in Newark. A lot of family in Philly, man. Those, yeah, man, yeah. And I looked at Sunni Muslims.
We ain't never trusted Jersey. Growing up in New York, we ain't never trusted Jersey.
It's a little different, man. Jersey, you know, Newark, man. Newark, man, is a different energy, man. They got a strong culture, strong Muslim culture in Jersey, Newark, East Orange. You know what I'm saying? And man, I love being there, man. But you know, after watching that Who Shot Malcolm, even the quote unquote Sunni Muslims, man, who I don't even want to tell you, Heath. I don't even want to, like, I gotta let you finish it, man. I ain't gonna like break it down to you, man. But
watch it.
But you gotta watch it. But one part of this that I liked about it, well, that's sad rather, of how many agents was around, man. This brother was surrounded, man.
Yeah. So was Martin.
Yeah, Martin. But with Malcolm, man, like it was agents on top of agents, man. Yeah. Some agents didn't even know other agents was there. It was crazy, man. He ain't had no chance, brother. He ain't have a chance, brother. And he knew that.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to that part. I'm actually at that part right now. He's already been assassinated, so I'm past that part.
Okay, so let me be quiet. I'm gonna let you do your thing.
It's been amazing so far, and like obviously, like, you know, as your topic, you know, for like your degree is going to be on this. I can't wait to, like, you know, read it for sure, and I hope a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now is included, particularly that parallel between those two strong figures. I wanted to change gears a bit. Number one, thank you so much for everyone being in the room. Give a shout out to a couple people here that, like, we know quite well. Brother William, thank you so much for being here. William Stenhouse. Of course, our people, Dave out there, thank you for being here, brother. Miss Jeans, thank you, all the way from Kenya, you know what I mean, checking us out. Thank you, baby. Thanks for being here. One brother had a question. S. Bolden had a comment. He was saying we often radicalize Baz, Malcolm X, but King was willing to die for his nonviolence. That's radical. Yeah, for sure. So, appreciate the comment. Feel free to use the comment section. That often doesn't get used. Feel free to use that. We do read those. I wanted to say, Basheer, tell us about your music influence. Yeah, because you know, like we had to take a deep dive into your Instagram, and you know, saw some freestyle, some flows, you know, so that you had some skills. So you know, tell us about like who influenced you musically and like what you use your music for now.
Question. I never had that question asked before, man. But you know, the last poets. I think that it wasn't just musicians that influenced me, but even for me, like Malcolm was a rapper, man, and Martin was a poet, you know. As far as poetry goes, man, I love Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. I love the Quran is poetry to me. You know, the great speakers, man, Marcus Garvey, man, Carter G. Woodson, you know, David Walker, Harriet Tubman, you know, they all lived out poetry to me. Their lives was poetic for me. You know, the last poets, you know, the white man has a God complex, you know what I'm saying? Last poets, man.
Amazing.
You know, H. Rap Brown, you know, my mother, of course, Pac, and the new influences, man, Rick Ross, man, Drake, you know, Kendrick, J. Cole, Rhapsody, you know, there's just amazing artists. Dave, you know what I'm saying, in Cleveland, you know, for real, Connie's son. These are people that's in Cleveland, man, that really influence me, who I know that they are saying what they're saying what they're doing, they're saying how they're living. And just growing up in my city, man, growing up in it's all poetry. It's a blank canvas that has the potential to be a masterpiece. So when my anger began to be translated in poetry instead of translated in violence. I would take my frustrations out on a pen and paper, and it's a blessing, man. You know, melody would come out, not in the form of song, but in the form of words. And I look at poetry and hip hop as, for me, bubblegum flavored medicine, man. Like, the people need the medicine, but sometimes you gotta put it in a flavor that they can understand and relate to. So if I'm in the streets, man, I'm in Chicago and Cabrini Greens, or I'm in Brooklyn and Brownsville, or I'm in LA and Compton and Watts. If I'm in, you know what I'm saying, Florida and Miami-Dade, or if I'm in Boston, man, in the section where Malcolm grew up, or I'm in DC on Georgia Avenue, or you know, I'm in you know, Dallas, Texas, man, or if I'm in wherever marginalized people are being hurt and are living, for me is poetry. So I go there, and before I even speak, before I even give you my perspective, I gotta spit a poem for you. Let me spit some poetry for you, so you can understand and relate that I'm also translating this trauma, and I'm able to translate this trauma into something creative. And you also have the ability to translate trauma to creativity, you know? And once I do that, then the door is open for me. And I'm able to speak to their hearts. Then they trust me, right? Because they recognize that I've been where they are, or I am where they are. And if I'm able to translate my pain into creativity, then you can also translate your pain and your trauma into creativity. And I'm not better than you. I'm with you. I'm in the trenches with you. I'm hungry with you. I'm in this pain with you. And here in Cleveland, Brother Marlon, here in Cleveland, man, you know, I'm that person in Cleveland. You know, when a family son is murdered, I'm the person that they call. When an injustice takes place, I'm the person that is leading that. You know, that has been my position. But I don't want that to forever be my position, in a sense of being on the front line in that way. My goal is to inspire and motivate and help create a new generation that can take that position, you know? And that's my goal, man. That's my goal every day, to get closer to the Creator. And Islam is my foundation, man. You know, Islam is my foundation. Islam is the reason why I do and move the way I move, and it gives me the courage to be in these spaces that other people don't want to be. So I'm thankful to the Creator, man. And we always say that H-Rap Brown, he calls me often. Him and I, we talk often. When I won the election, when I became councilman, I became the first Muslim in Cleveland's history to get in that position. So H-Rap Brown called me. For those who are not familiar with H-Rap Brown, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, one of the founders of, or one of the leaders of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, right there with Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, right there with, right in the mix, like that. And he called me, he said, "Hey, Basheer, man." He said, "Hey, man," this is how you talk. "Hey, man, listen, man. The most racist white person is a black person, man." I was like, "Dang, man. Oh, man." You know what I'm saying? He said, "Hey, man, the most racist white person is a black person, man." He said, "Be careful, man. Be careful, man." He said, "Hey, man, most people, they doing all that talking, man, they can't stand the frisk, man. They can't even stand the frisk, man. They can't even beat themselves, man. Don't you worry about it, man. You stay strong. What you need, man?" I said, "What you need? What you need, Imam? I mean, he said, "Hey, man, I'm good. As long as I can pray, I'm good, man. I'm good, man." So this is the cloth I come from, man. These the cloth I come from, man. And
that's like saying all skin folk and kinfolk.
That's it, man. That's it, man. He said, "Hey, man, the more racist white people is black people, man. Be careful, man."
That's deep. That's deep.
That's cold, man. My greatest opposition have been people look like me, beloved. Please believe.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Wow, respect, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
You have I don't want to call it heavy, but I'll use that as a word because I can't find. But you have a lot of lifting, a lot of heavy lifting, man. How do you stay healthy? I heard Dr. Layla Africa, he just passed away last month, and also Dr. Cornel West. They both have warned all of us to make sure we stay healthy as we, lift while we climb and while we're doing our work. How do you stay healthy, man?
When I spent some time with Dr. Cornel West, I had a chance to have a moment with him, and he said something very powerful to me, man, about family and making sure that while you're trying to take care of the world, you don't forget the galaxy within. You don't forget your galaxy.
I've heard him say that. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So my children, I have 3 children, man, and they bring me so much peace, man. I got a strong family. Strong inner circle, strong group of soldiers. I got a strong movement within my own just personal, who do an amazing job and just keeping me prayed up, man. They make sure I'm eating right, make sure I'm drinking enough water, make sure that my mind is right. But you know what, Heath, man? I had to get to a space in my life, and it happened at 33. It happened at the age 33, where something came over me to say, you know what? I no longer accept the world's perspective of me. I no longer accept it. Because what we do is we take other people's perspective of us and we apply it to our own lives. Whether it's a woman that you with, who says, and our sisters have experienced trauma, man. And ain't nothing worse than a man with trauma and a woman with trauma, unhealed trauma, and they don't know how to heal, and they just bashing and killing each other and hurting each other, and then produce children with trauma who grow up and express trauma, and the cycle doesn't stop. So my whole life, I never wanted to be my father. I never wanted to be a politician. I never wanted to be a rapper. I never wanted to be none of that. The only goal I had was not to be my father, because he wasn't there. He didn't take care of me. He wasn't there, blah, 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 blah. And then I was spending time with, there's a chief from Ghana. He from the Atankwa village in Ghana, West Africa. Him and a man by the name of Dr. Kwa Whitaker, David Whitaker. He's a chief. He's an honorary chief in Ghana, West Africa. So they came to Cleveland, and I became an honorary member of the Atankwa village. And he looked at me, he said, the moment that you realize that just waking up, you're different than your father, you'll be okay. And that rocked me, man. That rocked me. Because that was my only mission in life. Don't want to be like my father. Don't want to be the father to my children that my father was to me. Don't want to Don't want to be the father. Don't want to be the husband that my father was. Don't want to be the father. Don't want to be the man that my father was. I was just like, that was my vibe, man, for my whole, like, till 33. And when he said that, brother, it woke me up, brother. It woke me up. When he said that, just waking up, you different than your father. And you don't have to even try to be different from your father because you're not him. And that freed me, man. That freed me. So people, you know, if I had a toxic woman in my life who made a statement and said, you know, you're going to be just like your father, it would hurt me. I'm just being real with you right now, man. It would hurt me, man. And it'll almost like put me in check, so to speak. Yeah. Because the person would know that that's not something that I desire. Mm-hmm. So brothers and sisters, we got to be careful about being in toxic relationships because you will be affected by their perspective of you. And when I got free, man, I stopped caring about people's perspective of me. When I got free, that joint felt so good. I just had a new epiphany too. This just happened a couple days ago. This epiphany, I woke up and a voice said to me, everyone on your journey will not finish it with you. That joint rocked me, man, because I had some epiphanies within my own inner circle that I had to become a snake charmer, man, because I didn't realize it was some snakes in the circle. So now I got to become don't just cut their heads off. You got to become the snake charmer. And I'm a loyal person, man, so I'm always like, I want my people to be with me, man. Come on, man, let's go, man. Listen, you don't see what I see, just roll with me, man. I see it. We're going to change the world, blah, 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 blah. Something hit me, said, hey, man, everybody that's on the journey won't finish it with you. Yo, that joint freed me, man, because you can't climb the mountain with so much baggage. At some point, you're going to have to let that baggage go. And sometimes we be in company of people who really don't want to go with you, but just don't want to miss the fun. They don't want to miss the fun. They don't want to miss the fun. Or they don't want to.
Can I add? That's okay. Now, you said not everybody this on the journey is going to finish with you. I just want to add to that point, and that's okay. Because some people might think that's like a negative thing. Or like, oh, you know, that was my people. We come up together. I got to bring everybody with me. I don't want to sell out. You know, like there was like, you know what I mean, everybody with me. No, it's okay to leave people behind. If they're not building you up, then you know, you just like hanging out for nothing. Like you said, don't want to miss the fun. When you're like, yo, this is not fun. It's about like a sustained vision and like building generational prosperity, not popping bottles today only.
Come on, man. Or you know, you might have people around you, man, who just don't like the energy that you're receiving and feel like they deserve to get the energy. In the Quran, God tells Adam, bow down to Adam. And in the Islamic perspective, Satan says, God is telling Satan, bow down to Adam. And Satan says in Arabic, he says, Ana khayrun minhu. Khalaqtani min nar, khalaqtuhu min teen. He says, Ana khayrun minhu. I'm better than him. Khalaqtani min nar. You created me from fire. Khalaqtuhu min teen. You created him from dirt, from mud. You know? So this envy and jealousy of people who want to be in your position because they feel that they deserve it. But the fact that they think they deserve it is a sign that they don't deserve it. That's the sign in itself. The fact that somebody is looking at you, what you're doing, and they believe that they should be in that spot is a sign that they don't deserve to be in that spot. You know, and as a result, they won't even, and as a result, even if they were in that spot, they won't even recognize it because they're so busy looking at the spot that you in. Yes, man. So you got to be careful, man. So, but I do want to say this because I know all of this is like theory and existential and stuff, but let me just talk to you a little bit briefly about what we're doing in the community, in a political position, and why politics is power, and why is it, you know, so important for people to understand. when I became a councilman, one of the issues here in Cleveland, you have a majority black city. You wouldn't think so because of the people that's in power, or because of the suffering of black people. But the majority of the city, 60% of the city is black people, black and brown people, black, Latino, all right? So why not? Why don't we have, this, one blade of grass don't make the lawn look greener. Don't make the lawn look greener. So one of my goals was making sure that there were more black developers, right? Not just black people holding a construction sign, but black architects, black developers. Right now in my ward, I have 4 major projects and 3 of them are minorities. Two of them are black women, and one of them is a black man. Development companies, and that's huge in Cleveland because it's always been dominated by white men. So one of the things I wanted to do was change the economics, the access to resources. So that was the first thing. Another thing that we've begun to do is turning Ward 7 into a open air art museum. So as you drive through Ward 7 and you walk through it, you're starting to see more art up. W.E.B. Du Bois, he said that art is propaganda. It has the ability to wake people up out of their sleep. So on an energy box, you might see a young chocolate black girl and it says on her shirt, protect me, or you may have a photo of a father and son playing chess. You may have a photo of a Trayvon Martin, a photo of a Tamir Rice, a photo of, a black girl, with her mother putting a crown on her, right? So letting art be in the community, and we got like 10 more pieces that's getting ready to go up after the economy opens back up. Another thing is about just changing the culture. Now, like I'm walking around, man, kids run up to me, hey, Councilman, hey, Basheer, look at my report card, man. They know that when they come to me, they're going to get something, whether it's $1 in my pocket, whether it's a hug, whether it's a free bike, they're going to get something for being great. You're not going to just get attention for doing wrong. You're going to get attention for doing the right thing. All right. We also have had major investments in recreation centers. I'm not going to tell my youngins to stay off the corner, but I don't have a nice place to send them to. So we're investing millions and millions of dollars in recreation centers and in parks that are going up. I've only been in office, brother, for 2.5 years. Only 2.5 years. So what I'm showing people is politics can be impactful, can be powerful, but you have to have the right people in position. And that's why, man, this next mayoral election, man, for Cleveland, I'll be running for mayor.
Did you announce that?
No, I haven't. So that's between Cleveland and Dubai.
Right here.
He announced it he just announced it on Global Brothers Podcast. Okay.
That's for Cleveland, Dubai, and Kenya, man. So
Make some noise, and Kenya.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic.
So we have another question in our comment section. Heath, you wanna address the question there?
Yeah, let me get over here. Financial Unity asks, please ask Basheer, what are his 3 to 5 year goals? Where does he see himself in the next 5 years? I think you might have answered that.
Yeah, I pray. Hey, listen, either I'll be in the mayor or I'll be in Kenya, man. It's either that. I'm going back to Africa or be the mayor. But I think that we have a good opportunity to be successful. I think that Cleveland has so much potential, man. But when you look at Atlanta, Georgia, for example, and look at what Maynard Jackson did for Atlanta. If you ever been to Atlanta, you've seen black wealth. Here in Cleveland, if somebody's driving a Rolls Royce, I can call them because I know exactly who it is. You know what I mean? But in Atlanta, man, there's so much black wealth going through Atlanta. So why is that? Maynard Jackson played a major role in that as the mayor of the city. He made sure you can't do no business unless a certain percentage goes to minorities, right? He called all the banks. You got to make sure you have a certain amount of people on your board that look like the people of the city. And he did that. And what that did was create generational wealth. That's what we got to do in Cleveland, man. We have to, you have a majority black city, but then you got majority of the banks that are ran by And I'm not saying white people are not good or nothing. I'm not believing, and I'm not saying all black people are good. What I'm saying is that we have to have more representation. So financial unity, I just, hopefully, man, I get your support. And I'm hoping my brother Dave, man, he create the instrumental. Hey Heath, man, how long would you hey man, you gotta get with Dave. You gotta, man, this brother is special, brother. I'm telling you, brother, he's special, brother.
So I'll take a quick moment. Dave, before you got on, I told the story about when Basheer was in Al-Ain in Dubai, and we finally met. And I had first text Basheer when I was with you in Cleveland, maybe 2010, 2011, and then I didn't meet him until 2014, 2015 here in Dubai. But this story here is deep because after we met here in Dubai, I had been wanting you to connect with Dave around 2017 because he had performed in my wedding.
There.
And when he performed in the wedding, that had launched his music career. And I knew you were in the music, and I knew you were an influential figure in the land. So Dave and I had numerous conversations, man. And all I had was your phone number just to text you, And I knew you were busy. I mean, you were in the middle of a city council race, and I'm hitting send like, hey man, you got to hook up with my man Dave. So it was crazy. And then Dave, you take it from there, how you guys finally met.
Man, I mean, it was definitely divine, man. Like Basheer said, when you're in the city, most times if you are somebody, the city gets that much smaller. Everybody knows somebody that is somebody. You know what I mean? So we knew a lot of the same people, man. And it's so many times we were in the same room, and it was just constant confirmation that it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those real aggressive dudes where I like, we in the room and I'm like, hey man, can I get 5 minutes of your time, brother? That ain't, I'm more of a laid back, I'm gonna peep the scene, and most times I think Basheer can attest, wherever he goes, it's a multitude of people like, hey, can I get your ear for a minute? Hey, can I talk to you? Hey, you know what I mean? So it was I finally stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit and asked somebody to make the connection, but they were unsuccessful. I don't even know if they ever reached out to him or not. But they kind of were just like, man, he's busy right now. They were kind of speaking for him. So I was just like, that's cool. I just the mere fact that I'm constantly thinking about it, I'm constantly saying it. I'm a firm believer in what comes out of our mouths will manifest, man. So I literally faithfully spoke it weekly, man, if not daily, man. And lo and behold, a guy that I work with musically, Bruce, was like, yeah, man, Bosh, that's what we call him, Bosh, that's my guy, man. That's how Bruce talk. So Bruce sends him, I think it was the Revolution, I think. And not a lot of people really hip to the Revolution, and now that he just made that mayoral announcement, I think I'm gonna hold the Revolution, man. I think that's the soundtrack for the run, man. So I'm gonna sit that one I'm gonna put that one in the freezer, man, for now. And that's how we end up colliding. He was having a voter registration thing at his center, and I'm standing. We're both in the same room. We still haven't shook palms, still haven't met, still haven't nothing. And he walks in. Just when he walks in, you feel his energy, you feel his presence. But me, like I'm still a cool guy, so I'm in the cut chilling. You know what I mean? And finally, Bruce like, yo, that's Dave right there. Then he looked. And he looked again like, oh snap, this my man. Heath, right? I was like, yeah, from Dubai. Like, oh, brother, you know what I mean? And man, from there, it was crazy. Then he made me the grand finale, man, of the event. And, man, we tore it down, man. We tore it down, and I dedicated.
Man, listen, hey, Heath, man. When Dave started singing, brother, I swear to God, brother, I was crying, brother. I was crying, man, because God do everything for a reason, man. I was really going through a serious struggle, man. And when my brother got on the microphone and started singing, man, I felt like so emotional, man. It was such a beautiful. It was so beautiful, man. How we finally, man, united, man. I mean, the souls have already been connected, but it was amazing how we was able to unite, and man, and we've been locked in ever since, man. So yeah, man, this brother right here, man, special brother, man. He is special spirit, and Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said we're not a physical being having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So when you meet certain people, you like, yo, I know you, man. Like I know you, man. Like, no, I know you, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the souls know.
That's
you know
how it was. Yep, that's exactly how it was.
Yeah.
It was like we was talking in the flesh, but our spirits were dapping up at the same time. You know what I mean? It was a mutual dap, man. It was crazy.
I want to touch on before you gotta go, brother. The motivational aspect of person and say, what makes you up. That whole Be the Change leadership theory. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, man. I created something before I got into council. I was a consultant in the schools, and I created a series, a leadership series, and it's like a 25-week leadership series where I would go into a school, and every week I would talk to the students about a different leadership quality: patience, persistence, and love, and and then also look at leaders from across the spectrum, from all faiths, from all cultures, and be like, yo, man, they know different from you. Just because you here, it don't mean that you can't be where you want to be. But the question is where you want to be, where you going, what you trying to accomplish. That's what. And it was very successful, man. It's very successful, and it's a blessing, man. So, I definitely want to get back to that statement that we said, that we talked about the 3 to 5 years. If I can just go to that, the goal really, man, is how do I impact the city of Cleveland and ultimately impact the world? Because we know that every day that we wake up, though we are happy that we've woken, we're taking a one step closer to the grave, to physical death. So my question always is, how can I live long after this spaceship goes back into the earth, And legacy, man. I think about that every day. I talk to my children. I have a whole tribe, man. So I was like, I have a bunch of children, man. I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. And they may not be my blood, but they're all under my tribe. They're all under my leadership. So I'll be sitting down, man. There's 20 kids in front of me, and I'm just pouring into them. Hey, man, you see what Uncle doing, right? You see what Daddy doing, right? Right. You see, no, serve the people. No. You ain't doing nothing for them. You doing something for your own soul. You think that you doing something for them? Or you think you better than them? You ain't better than nobody. You're not better than nobody. If Allah has blessed you to be a vessel, you the one that's blessed. The cup is as blessed as the one drinking the water. You're blessed, and constantly putting that into the children, putting that into my family, putting that into the women that are around me, putting that into the men that's around me, that if anything ever happened to me, keep this mission going. Not if, when it happens, keep this mission going, keep fighting, keep pushing, right? And of course, no one wants to think about death in the physical sense, because that's the separation, because we're stingy. We just we know what we know, just like the baby, it cries when she leaves the belly of her mother. That's all she knew until she is born into a new world. And just as small as the belly is as small as this world is in comparison to the next world. So we want to make sure that we're leaving a legacy of service. In the Quran, it says that when those who pass away, the first thing they say to God is, let me go back so I can give more, right? And they don't say go back so they can pray more. They don't say go back so they can, you know what I'm saying, party more. Let me go back so I can give more. So every day, I'm just trying to give, man. And I just thank y'all so much for giving me an opportunity from Dubai to Kenya to Cleveland, you know, to just giving me the opportunity to give, even if it's a piece of myself, that hopefully it can be of impact, man. And, you know, I just love y'all so much, man. And I appreciate y'all brothers, man. And real men recognize men, man. And I recognize that in you brothers, man. So much love to you, man. Please keep me in your prayers, man. Salute and salams to you, man.
Definitely.
We're gonna let you go just yet. I got one more big thing for him, Heath. Which is sister cities. Have you heard of the concept of a sister city?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So you did mention in terms of your honorary membership of that tribal collective in Ghana, and you mentioned Kenya a couple of times. In your position, particularly when you become mayor, to be able to adopt an African city, I think that would be dope, brother. For young Black brothers and sisters to understand that they have cousins in Africa that they can vibe with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like, look, we got technology today. We can talk to people across the world like instantaneously. So we shouldn't feel so disconnected. So coming from an official like yourself, telling people that, yo, I support this initiative to have a sister city, and like, you know, speaking that into existence. What do you think about that?
I love that idea, and I have a very good. I consider him an uncle. His name is Albert Ratner. He's a 95-year-old Jewish billionaire, and he told me something that rocked me, man. He said that every Jewish child has a birthright to Israel. That they are, when they're born, they have a free trip to go back to their homeland, and that's a reminder for them of where they come from. That even though they're in America, that's where their homeland is, and that's the same thing we have to do. You know, you can't be multicultural until you first love to be Black. You know, so we creating that birthright. Every Black person should know in some shape or form that they are connected to Africa. They're connected to Africa. So no doubt about it. That's one of my goals, is to create many sister cities within Africa, as well as in the Arab world, or African world, really. But that's another conversation. But you know, you feel me, Heath?
On the continent.
That's the continent, man. They know. I appreciate you, brothers, man. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate my sisters from Kenya and everybody that's here. Please keep us in your prayers. This is a serious mission that we on, and it's a lot of battles. And if you hear something good about me, you know, thank the Creator. If you hear something bad about me, you know, pray to the Creator. Ask the Creator to bless me and to protect me and my family, because this is you on the front line, man. It's not an easy task, but it's necessary.
No question. I got one favor from you though, brother.
Yes, sir.
Next time you mention your influences, man, please give my Philly brother Black Thought some love, man. Please.
Yo, man, without a doubt. Hey, listen, I'm supposed to be meeting with him, man. He's gonna become he's supposed to become the Cleveland man to support me, man, for this run. We put that together. Without a doubt, he's in my top 5, man. Black Thought in my top 5.
Okay.
Dude,
do me another favor.
Yes,
you have a copy of Going Global, right?
I sure do.
If you can remember, bring that to him, because he has a copy as well. I sent him a copy, and he actually hit me on the DM, told me he received it.
Good
but
stuff.
I need him to acknowledge, because he has it, but I'm kind of trolling him a little bit every now and then. So,
hey, man, sometimes you gotta do that, man. And people who he don't look at it as trolling, he look at it as love. Just reminders.
No doubt.
Yep. Just reminders.
Tell everybody how we can get in touch with you, and keep abreast with your activities and what's going on. Like, what's your social media, what's your website handle, etc.
No doubt. Blessings, man. So once again, man, I thank you all so much, man, for just giving me opportunity to share space with you all. You know, energy has no bounds, and you can feel it wherever you are, even if you're on top of the earth like me. You know what I'm saying? Or you just chilling out, man, in Dubai. Energy has no bounds, man. Our brain has the power. Our mind has the power to travel time and space, man. So I thank you all for this time. It was healing for me. You guys can follow me at Basheer J, BASHEERJ, on Instagram, Basheer Jones on Facebook. And, you know, I'm easy to connect with there. I'm just thankful, man, to have experienced this with you guys, and I hope and pray that we can connect again at some point in time, man.
We thank you, brother. Thanks a lot.
No doubt.
As we always say, man, live global and prosper.
Prosper. Peace. Peace, everybody. Thanks.
Mr. Worldwide.